name is Saeed. I'm a Gulf and Business Correspondent at El Monitor. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because we have the unique opportunity to speak to Ali Saeed, the CEO of BluePay, who operates in Iraq. And I think let's get right to it. He's operating in a region, in a country which has faced many years of war, which has had sanctions, put upon it, which does not operate in the same way that other economies in the region operate. So, Ali, I'd like to ask you right away, what does it take for, first of all, thank you for being here, and want to find out from you, what does it actually take for a merchant in Iraq to be able to make online payments and bring in imports and products into the country?
Sure. I'm just going to talk about the companies and e-payment in Iraq as a whole, then we'll jump into the merchant subject. We started 2 years ago, and the market basically was challenging. We started as a startup, and there was 7, 8 companies ahead of us by 5, 6 years. And they mainly were they were processors. So we wanted to start with something new. And in Iraq, the environment is a bit challenging for the startups in order, when it comes to get investors and get funds. So that was, for myself, that was, for my partner as well, this was a big burden because when you take money from someone, there is a big responsibility, okay? You don't make a startup and you think, when I run out of money, I'll come back and ask the investors for more money again. You need to make sure that you have, especially in Iraq, plan A, plan B, plan C. So we struggled in the beginning, okay, but we had a vision. We stick to it, and we built what they call it a super app. But when I think about it, I would say I was building an experience. So the first time I tried Revolut and I exchanged from one currency to another, I got the feeling of freedom and control. So it's the experience. So all the innovation now in our application, it's about the experience. And we kept inventing in this application in terms of the KYC. We have the latest technology, so everybody wants to, they can do self-registration, automatically the ID through the chip, we get all the data, and then there is more of AI technology that checks the picture with your, if you want to take using the camera. So all these details, it's covered. And we started to put more currency in the applications like Turkey because we made some kind of research on the market, and we found that there are some challenges for the merchants to get goods from outside Iraq.
How are they traditionally doing that, actually? And I think that'd be really interesting to understand because it's not similar to how other countries in the region would do that. How are they actually reaching these countries to get these imports when it's difficult?
Yeah, so basically there are limitations on transfers. Plus, if there are transfers, the fee is very high. It can reach around 8 or 9%. So for example, for the regular money transfer companies. So we started with the Turkish lira because it's a neighbor company, and Iraq imports around $11 billion a year in terms of goods. So, and from that point, the demand on our cards and application, we didn't expect it, actually, okay? Then we started to make, more research about the market. So our next step was China. Iraq imports around $60 billion in terms of goods from China. And mainly when we made our study, we discovered that it's the SMEs that do these transfers. And we're talking about amounts between $10,000 to $40,000. So we're launching in 7 or 10 days our new product in renminbi. It's going to base on a transfer platform in relationship with one of the big schemes in China that will enable merchants to do transfers seamlessly, very fast, and very low cost.
And it's very particular that merchants in Iraq are looking to Turkey and China. Can you explain why that is? I think that plays maybe a very important role, and for you to be able to provide this solution. For example, why are they doing this in the first place, and then on what platforms would they normally get in contact, with sellers in China or in Turkey?
Sorry.
To understand, for example, as you're providing an online payment system which they didn't have access to as easily before.
Yes.
Like, what barriers to entry to connect with different countries? For example, why aren't they trading as easily with the U.S. or with Europe? And how do they actually get in touch with countries like Turkey and China to be able to import these products?
Okay, so you mean in the past?
Yeah, exactly. Just to show the before and after compared to your product.
I mean, in the past, they used to deal with money transfers. Again, the transfer fee is very high, okay? Or banks. Banks, usually their transfers take a long time because usually banks in Iraq, they don't have direct correspondence, which makes, it's a bit challenging to send the transfer on time. So instead of having 2-3 days, transfer might take up to 1 month. And this is it can be very painful for the merchant if they want to compete in the market. I mean, now even the crypto or the blockchain technology, it came to give faster transaction, cheaper transaction. So this is all how the market now is, revolving around. So that would be basically it's how to get. Let's say we're talking about the supply of goods. Now, the next step would be the point of sale. Now, most of the merchants, they don't deal with point of sale, all right? And again, we did some kind of research how to convince them in order to have a point of sale, because they're happy of, receiving cash. Cash is king. And we saw like other companies, they try to go directly, like the processors, to give point of sale to merchants. But we came up with another idea. So we started to collaborate with banks. We tried to do some kind of alliance, all right? So we went to the banks and we tell them, listen, we're gonna provide you with the technology, the device, and you try to give the incentive to the merchants. Okay, because the merchant eventually needs some kind of incentive on why to get the point of sale and do like e-transaction. And we reached some kind of a solution. So first, we started to introduce the credit card. Okay, so merchants now they have a credit card, so some kind of a credit line. Okay, so that'd be number one. The bank started to give like small lines to the merchants. They opened banks for them, and they told them, and this is basically a plan that we put together, show us transactions on your point of sale, and we are more than happy to give you a loan, okay, in order to upgrade your business. Mm-hmm. So all the companies have been in the market for again, 5-6 years. In the first month that we started with probably 3 or 4 banks, we captured 10% of the whole market. And this is only in 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, alhamdulillah, I mean, today we're a profitable company, okay? The growth, alhamdulillah, is I would say, exponential. I cannot talk about numbers, but we're doing very well.
That's amazing to hear, and I think the things that really stand out from what you're saying is that, for example, like normally transactions would have multiple steps, have extra costs, just really complicates that matter for when you have someone in Iraq trying to bring something in from outside. That's one. Then it sounds like there's also education that's part of the process.
Absolutely.
Right, where, as you said, cash is king. There's still that culture to even, and you're also creating more transparency in the local payment system, which, from my experience as a reporter, it gains trust and encourages, foreign direct investment, which is something that every, country wants, to be able to develop its economy.
Sure.
So it sounds like you're really creating this infrastructure, and I'd like to elaborate more on the education side of it. So, for example, who are your biggest users at the moment? what are the barriers to entry? For example, like, do you have people maybe that are more familiar with online platforms from even gamers, for example, that use cryptocurrencies and, you know, they're comfortable using these online, you know, forms of payments? Do you have like certain segments of Iraqi society that are more comfortable with it, others that need, you know, a bit more like hand-holding when it comes to these types of systems?
Okay, well, basically we serve all segments, okay? We try to make sure that our product cover the needs of all ages, whether gamers or merchants. Unfortunately, our regulator, they don't allow for cryptocurrency, hopefully in the future. Now, but recently we were the only company to get a license from the Central Bank of Iraq to have a money transfer license. So we can become just like the big money transfer schemes. And we are working on it.
So this will allow like online payments for government payments?
Exactly. So the next step for us, we need to open, you know, bank accounts inside Iraq, which can be, again, a bit challenging, okay? But I do believe in something that Iraq have lots of challenges, but where there are challenges, there are opportunities, okay? Absolutely. So if you always do the same that everyone is doing, you will always you get, you know, a small piece of the market, okay? So we always try to make something unique and different.
And with the work that you're doing, can you talk a bit about what doors all of this is going to open in terms of opportunity? How do you see, for example, Iraq's, you know, economy, and also like for small business and medium-sized enterprises, for example, or just the overall economy changing as a result of having these systems more incorporated, allowing people to do more with their businesses? And how do you see this actually changing the infrastructure, the finance landscape in Iraq?
Well, let me tell you something. So in Iraq, something happened basically that pushed all this, and we took advantage of it. There were some restrictions on the dollar cash, like in the cash notes in the market, some restrictions on banks. So usually innovation comes when there are a crisis or there's like a pandemic, okay? So we all know that when the pandemic comes in, delivery companies, e-commerce all started, and e-payment followed up just to be part of the ecosystem. And now this is exactly what happened in Iraq, and this is will have a very positive impact. One, we are starting seeing the financial inclusion numbers going up because merchants started to have bank accounts. At the same time, the government started to push this by, you know, doing some laws. So the prime minister, the new prime minister, Mohammed Shia Sudani, which is in my, you know, history living in Iraq, okay, this is the first time that I see a will and a dedication, execution, and there's a plan, okay, for making this happen on the government sector, okay? So now there is some kind of circular from the Prime Minister. All the government sectors need to have bill payment, point of sale for this for the customer and the citizen payments. So, you know, everything is going in parallel, okay? And I think all this will affect the ecosystem positively.
Amazing. It sounds like it's the perfect storm of, you know, necessity is the mother of invention with things like COVID and forcing the need for these types of services. People are going more online, and as you said as well, as we're very familiar with here in the UAE, when you have that government push, creating that regulation, creating that system, it allows you to be able to operate.
And the right timing. The timing is very important.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. Exactly. It seems like everything's being aligned at the same time.
Exactly.
So I wish you the best of luck. This is only the tip of the iceberg, it seems, but we can, you know, talk about this even in more depth. I'm sure there's so much more to it.
Definitely.
Thank you, Ali, for you know, sharing, you know, your experience and what you're doing with us. And yeah, again, you know, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, and a big hand for Salim and Ali for that wonderful and insightful presentation.